Welcome back to another video of me just yapping for the next 10 minutes, unedited, so you get to see the mistakes that I make along the way. How fun is that? Anyways, I wanted to share my experience of working out in the last 3 years, my working out journey, as influencers like to call it. Uh, but I wanted to sort of niche it down, particularly to me being South Asian. I've started to see a lot of videos around YouTube, Instagram, and whatnot, TikTok as well, about South Asians, particularly sharing their experience. South Asian men, I'm not gonna talk for the moment. Men sharing their experience, and talking about how it's significantly harder for people of our background to gain muscle and also to lose fat, compared to other races. And if you look into it, there's multiple reasons for why that is. If, in the last couple of centuries, there's been significant famines that have occurred in the subcontinent, particularly in and around the subcontinent. I'd like to say, and because of that, that has adversely, negatively affected the digestive system. You can call it negatively affected because it's actually an evolutionary mechanism that has, allowed us to survive, but as a result, we end up storing more fat in our stomach, and hence the skinny fat brown dude phenomena that exists all around the world. Pretty much, yeah, most brown dudes are skinny fat. Um, I particularly was also skinny fat, and I would consider myself still skinny fat more or less. But I just wanted to share my experience as well because it's good to talk about things like this so that other people who are sharing a similar experience can see that, oh, they're not the only ones going through that, because I know a lot of my brown friends have also experienced it being harder for them to do the things that seem easier for other people to do. um, and I feel like every brown guy has a story where he's lifting quite a lot more than, let's say, a black guy or a white guy or maybe an Asian. But when you look at the mirror and see the amount of muscle you have, it's lesser than those very people who don't lift as much as you. And I know there's not necessarily a direct correlation with strength and size, but it occurs so often that you start to think that there might be the complete opposite, because you're lifting quite a bit. You're doing your reps, you're doing all the things that all these fitness influencers tell you to do, and then you look at yourself in the mirror and you look nowhere like what you want to look like, or what your dream body, uh that you set out for yourself looks like. So I just wanted to talk about that because when I started, I wouldn't say I was in skinny fat. I was a very skinny kid, and so I've always found it very hard to put on muscle, or put on weight, regardless if it's muscle or fat. Uh, it's just a lot harder for me to do that because I have an extremely high metabolism, and I know that's not the same for most other brown people. I guess I don't know the numbers of it, but just general, you know, from what I have seen in my life, the people that I've met, it's usually uh, easier for brown people to put on fat. For me, it wasn't the case. Uh, but there's three things that I would just wanted to cover, uh, on the things that have helped me to gain the body that I have now. In the thumbnail, I'm planning to post the body that I currently have and the body that I started with, so you get an idea of what I currently look like. Not that big, but we still have a long way to go. I feel like the changes that I've made in the last 6 to 7 months have caused the most impact, most positive impact, and that's the thing that I wanted to talk about. Um, so the first thing is just very simple, right? When you start working out, or even like deep into your workout journey, you start seeing, your algorithm sort of changes to cater to your fitness desires. You start liking more fitness videos, and you start seeing more fitness advice given to you, like I'm sort of given right now, not really. But you fall into this loop of just trying out one particular split. Maybe it's push pull leg, maybe it's the bro split, or whatever other splits they are. There's a million of them, right? And you see a video of a guy saying that if you do high reps and if you, you do this and you do that, you eccentric contractions and all this technical details that he talks about, uh, and, and that makes you want to switch your split, and you stick with one split, one routine for like a week, maybe a couple weeks, or maybe a month, and then you completely switch the whole thing to another split. And you keep doing that because you keep getting all this content from people that are trying to sell you their idea, that their sort of you know perception of how to create the dream body, and you end up in this loop where you just keep changing your routine. And I think that's something that I fell into. And the moment I started to see excessive gains compared to relative to where I started was when I sort of stuck to one particular split, and that was the push pull leg. And I know this sounds like I'm being like one of those dudes who's telling you to do push pull leg. I'm not. This is just what works for me. This is what I enjoy doing. This is what allows me to be excited to go to the gym. Uh, because I already know what I'm gonna do. I know how to switch, like mix up the exercises here and there, so that it's not like the same every time I go. And push, I have a variation of tricep extension, or a variation of the angle at which I place my bench for the dumbbell or press, and so forth, for the leg as well. But at any particular day, I know what I'm doing. I'm doing push this day, I'm doing pull that day, and legs that day. And I just repeat every week. And as soon as I started to stick to that one routine for a long enough period, and by a long enough period, I would like to say over a year of just doing the same thing. Now I know this might not be scientifically proven, maybe it's not, but it's something that has worked for me. But before that, I was just mixing it up, trying to figure out the best exercise to get me the most gains and all the stuff that these influencers sell you. That's not what really resulted in the most amount of gains for me. Just sticking to one thing. And that does not mean that it's one, that's just, it has to be push pull leg. It could be something that works for you. Obviously, it has to be some sort of split that incorporates most, if not all, your muscles, or not all your muscles, but the main muscles that you work out in the gym, in a split that allows you to also relax those very muscles. So watch some videos of a particular split that you like, test it out, see if you like it, and then stick to it, and see your results in the next 6 to 7 months. And that's something that helped me. The second thing that helped me quite a bit, which I feel like, again, not many influencers talk about. I know there's some YouTubers like Hamza, and like forgot a couple of, like Mike Thurston, I think, as well, and there's a couple more that talk about this as well. But nutrition is obviously extremely important. That goes without saying. But nutrition, not in the sense that most other influencers talk about. I'm not comparing myself to them. I'm basing this off of the influencers that I've learned from, which is again Hamza, Mike Thurston, and some other ones. Eat the things that you know. How do I word this? Eat the food that you are aware is food. Now that sounds like a very dumb statement, right? But let me give you an example. Potatoes. Grilled potatoes. You're eating grilled potatoes. You know what that food is? That's potato. You know where that comes from. Right? A protein bar. What is a protein bar? There's a lot of things that are in a protein bar, and if you look at the back, there's gonna be at least a 150 different ingredients that you have. Half of them you're not gonna have any clue what even they are, like emulsifiers and all that sort of jazz. I've never heard of it, and neither have you. And if there are way too many ingredients in a particular thing that you're trying to buy, don't buy it, because they market it in a way, and I feel like a lot of these protein bars and protein supplements and whatnot. I'm not saying don't take whey protein or creatine, but these, that when you go to, like, I'm in Sydney, there's like Woolworths, Coles, Aldi. You go to that health section and you see all these like fitness food snacks, right? And then they look like, oh, they look healthy because they market it in that way. They're very like flashy and whatnot, and they have like the macros on it. They have like, oh, feel more energetic, branding, or this many amount of grams of protein, or whatever, right? And then you look at the back and you see like there's a million things inside there, and we don't know what we're consuming when there's a lot of things. And this goes back to the topic of extremely processed foods, like the highly processed foods. And I don't want to talk too much about it because that's a whole nother topic. But anything that is very processed to that extent where you don't even know where it's coming from, what sort of ingredients come together to make that, don't buy it, because 99% of the times that thing is going to be more harmful for you than you not eating that, even if it is a healthy sort of snack, right? Because in our brains we think, oh, that's what we're sold, that's gonna make me feel better because that's what it says. But if you look at the ingredients, that's not how humans are supposed to eat. We're not supposed to be eating items that are like, like a build a bear sort of item where you just go put a lot of stuff together, and you have all these chemicals involved and whatnot, and it's not even food by the time it's fully processed. So sticking to foods that we know come well, are actually food. We know where they're coming from. Like, let's say milk. I drink a lot of milk. I'm not saying it's good for you, but a lot of people, um, you know, say that milk's good for bulking, and if that's what you're up to. Greek yogurt, you know where it's coming from. You know it's coming from a cow. You know humans have been eating it for probably centuries, decades. Not decades. I mean thousands of years. So you know what that is, right? Chicken, steak, all these sources of protein, fish and whatnot. We know that they're food. You know what I mean. Obviously, if you're vegan, it might be a bit different. But even with that, almonds or whatever vegans eat, we can categorize that as well. But things like that, eating fruits, vegetables, things that maybe not taste the great, but you know that they are actually food. The worst thing I saw was about the cereals, right? A lot of even fitness influencers advise you to start your day with cereals because some of them are high in fiber and whatnot, and they probably are, and some of them are high in protein, and I'm sure they are. But they also have a lot of other random stuff involved into it, which is probably more harmful. Not probably, there it is going to be more harmful for you because it's proven. There's a lot of papers about how highly processed foods affect your thinking, not only your thinking but also your physical uh just you know lifespan, because a lot of them have things that could negatively affect your health in the long term. Now I don't want to get too into it because it depends on what sort of product you're consuming. It might vary, but you get the gist of it. Try to eat food that you know is food. And the third thing, the last thing, very simple. Not gonna talk too much about it because the video is already getting pretty long, but that's just holding in the lost reps. When you're working out, let's say you're working out your biceps, when you're reaching towards the end, just when you're about to just give up because your arms are just aching because you're in your 12th rep or whatever, holding that rep in and really feeling it, the mind muscle connection. I'm sure if you're watching this video you know about what that is. Really feel it, right? Close your eyes. This is some again, I'm talking about this because as soon as I started doing it for a long enough period, I started to notice substantially higher levels of muscle relative to what I was at before. And so that's I'm not basing this out of scientific research papers. I'm basing it out of my experience. Just holding those contractions and really thinking about the muscle. I know it sounds like voodoo magic, but it really does help. You really feel it more, and you start liking it as well. It's like a high. It's hard to explain, but I mean, when you feel it, when you feel your muscles aching like that, you sort of enjoy it. You sort of crave it after a while. That sounds like an addict thing to say, not really, but you'll get what I mean when you start doing it. Maybe some where we're like two people that are watching this are already doing it, but yeah, that's just something that's helped me out. But yeah, those are the things that have helped me, and I know again going back to the thing that I started with, South Asians, not the best genetics. Regardless, keep working out. Because there's no point in complaining. Let's say we do have bad genetics, we complain today. 6 years later, you're still complaining and you still have a shitty body. What would you rather do? Just go out and do the work, or keep complaining? Yes, it's gonna be harder for us, and what? Keep at it, man. Keep at it. See you.